the comments will pop up here. So we are live. So I'm live with Jedediah.
There you
I
go.
got it right?
Yes, you did. First try.
Cool. First try. So
Yeah.
cool. So he is the author of Your Money Vehicle. He is a former NFL player. So it's interesting. Do a lot of NFL players become financial advisors? Like, what are the typical careers, right? I see the motivational speaking as one, right? Coaching, that aspect. But what are the typical careers after?
Some get into motivational speaking because a lot of people are just impressed when an athlete can like string together a sentence or two.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Hey, man, this guy can actually talk. Like, give him a stage."
Yeah.
A lot of dudes stay close to football. You know,
Okay.
it's in their blood. It's a brotherhood and a bond you just don't want to leave. So they coach, and try to get into that. Some of the bigger names and cooler guys get into broadcasting, but
yeah,
they
know how to speak.
They know how to talk. Yes, they do.
Gotta be quick and
they're pretty. Like like Reggie Bush, dude's pretty. Like you give him what
you got. Have you ever considered it? You got the look.
So I am kind of unique in that, like, I tried really hard to never be defined as football guy. Like
that's something you did, but that's not. It doesn't define
exactly. And so I've really tried to veer away, but I do some broadcasting for my alumni Washington State as kind of a side hustle job. And it's just keeps me tied to the team. But yeah, a lot of former football guys are becoming firemen because it keeps that locker room atmosphere.
Yeah.
And we all need a sense of purpose in the transition. And going to be a fireman or firewoman, you have a team and you have a purpose pretty handedly.
No, and I think that's very important, because I think when you run out of the purpose and they're so used to a certain thing and that's all they know.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people just don't get that when you get into something like the NFL, right? Literally, that's all you do. Like, I remember one time, so I almost wrestled in college. I transferred out, but I knew someone who was like playing college football. He's like, yeah, we got meeting before practice. We got practice. We got a meeting after practice, and we got morning practice. And then, it's just like you're with the guys, and it's a lovely bond, right?
Yes,
it's beautiful.
But wrestling is a highly intense. I got to introduce you to my boy Ryan Warner, who has a wrestling podcast. But you look at it and you say to yourself, sports, since I was 9-10 years old, it wasn't football. My family's actually a basketball family. But I was a little shorter and stockier. Both my brothers are taller and thin.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'1", 6'2", maybe.
Yeah, it's a little tougher at that,
little hard. And I could hoop. Now, back in the day, like, I had a little, but both my brothers are 6'5", 6'6". And they went and played collegiate basketball. But since a young age, you're identified as this thing. You're told to go do this one thing. And then you wake up in your 20s, if you're fortunate enough to play that long, and that one thing is gone. And it's like, man, tell a doctor at 32 to go do something else, and they're going to be lost. But how do you have that conversation? Because you deal with people in transition and people kind of looking. How do you define purpose and kind of connecting them to the right place?
So I go back to, there's a concept called ikigai, and it's a Japanese concept. It's a concept of being. And that goes into passion, profession, mission, and vocation. Passion's what you love. Profession's what you're good at. Vocation's what you can get paid for. Mission is what the world needs. So I tell people that you need all four in your life to sort of be happy and be fulfilled. You can't, your ideal job hits all four, but the fact is you cannot always get that from an ideal job. So the NFL, whatever, the athlete, it sort of hit like maybe it was missing one aspect, like the money aspect, or it was missing some other aspect. So I tell people, it's like, break down, like, why'd you like it? Like, what'd you like? You like the brotherhood. Brotherhood can be replicated in other areas. Like, you could be a coach. Like, I'm an assistant wrestling coach. So I still get that, where I see the kids, I help them out. So I get that feel. And it's really going like, what'd you like? You like the strategy. You like the challenge. So there are many ways you can be challenged. It's all about, again, it's like translating this life into another life, because regardless, in athletics, there's always, your body will eventually catch up to you, right?
Maybe Father time.
So I tell people, it's like, look, maybe you can't make money doing what you did, but maybe, look, you'll have a job and on the weekends you coach, right? And that fulfills, hey, you get to see the kids, or so there are many ways, and every person has a different path. So it's really just having the conversation and figuring out what makes sense for their lifestyle, what gets their itch, right?
Yeah. So say passion, profession. What were the last two?
Mission, and vocation.
See, and what I love is that idea of searching out something that the world needs, and that those 4 curriculum criteria are excellent. Somebody explained it to me once as mad, sad, glad. Something that makes you mad, something that you find as you research it, it kind of starts to make you sad. And then eventually when you attack the problem, you start to be glad and find energy from it. But
I mean, it's just one of those things that a lot of people need to do a deep dive, because a lot of times it's just, this and you don't realize that maybe not the same way, but in a different way it can fulfill, right? I'm pretty sure you fulfill some of that football aspect by, how the side hustle that you're kind of doing, right? That you kind of have those memories and kind of seeing, because, not everything has to be like, you see like Michael Jordan, right? After now it's like all this business, right? You see some of them are just very good businessmen. They're very cunning and strategic. Some of them, they want like the more coaching aspect. They want to be involved. Some of them get it from commentating, right? So there are many ways, and that's the beauty of that. There's not one way.
I will say, like, how I'm getting to connect to the game now, and it's serving both purposes, is what's really neat. When in 2008, I'm a big journaler. I always have some pen and paper close by. But in 2008 was my rookie year. I actually wrote to myself, man, if I could do anything, it would be to come back and to teach a financial plan to rookies, because I looked at myself and I was like, hey, if this locker room, I was an accounting major. I grew up in Orange County, California. I should know this stuff, and I know none of it. And what's really neat is now I'm getting the opportunity to actually bring that dream to fruition, but also have that tie back into the game of football and say, hey, NFL, I get to go teach and talk to young NFL players and be like, man, somebody pulled me aside as a veteran in the league, and then also a mentor of mine, and taught me these things. It's pay it forward. It's my mission to go and keep teaching it, to the next.
No, and I think mentorship is something that a lot of people don't realize that they can do, right? And there are actually formal ways of mentorship and informal ways, right? There's like the Boys and Girls Club. There are all these other, there's so nonstop, right? Any nonprofit would love a former athlete to come in and kind of speak to them. And, the beauty is the kids really look up to that. Like, wow, this person did this. They like listen, right?
And so I always identify mentorship as plus, minus, and equal. And you need to have somebody you're looking up to. You need to have somebody you're eye to eye with, and you need to have somebody that's looking up to you. But I agree with that, man. I think mentorship, we're hiding in corporate culture. We're hiding behind this word culture. And I think mentorship is just it. It is that idea of training, the next, being able to identify that in the football world. Especially at the professional level, it was an interesting mentorship, because you were literally training the guy that was going to take your job. And so you could identify, veterans who weren't always
they weren't happy with that.
They weren't all in for that, but you found some dudes, and like that was, so I consider myself one of my biggest kind of secrets of success is I steal. I'm able to watch and observe people and absorb from them. And that idea of mentorship is definitely one. And we've all heard the famous quote, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Quarantine has kind of made that a little bit funny, but it is like, you got to have one of those mentors in that 5.
No. And one of my good friends tells me, he said, good artists copy, great artists steal. And it's just one of those things. It's look, other people have done it. Other people have, why not? And the beauty is you could always transform it a little, right? Like, this person did it this way. I can do it 90% this way, but the 10% I'm going to transform it. And that's the beauty of it. And like, I mentor like, my nephew, and then, some other people younger. I have people older. And again, it's the same level. And it's just like, you want to keep moving. And I think there's also the fact is when you mentor people, you set an example. So you have that, like, look, I can't have my nephew look at me like, he has to, right? I have to set the path for him.
And it is it is a strange realization. So I got little kids now, and I mean, it's parenting is mentoring, but they are mirrors, man. And like, you think it's funny and cute, like when you cheat at a little board game, and then you catch them cheating, you're like, don't do that. And they're like, hey, listen, bro, I just saw you. And it's like, oh, dang.
Now they just pick up it's like just
everything.
Yeah, that's what they know. They don't know much. So they're going to look at what they know. I think, that's the beauty of it. It's like you have a lot of control in how they turn out. In that, just by talking, setting an example.
But I love that notion of stealing. I think people need to take that more to heart, and people run from it. You know, people are like, I didn't steal this. This is my original thoughts. Like, very few of our thoughts are original. And you know, you brought up Michael Jordan, man. You watch that documentary. That dude stole from every player in the 70s and 80s. Like, he is in openly. And Kobe the same way, rest in peace.
Kobe has like his game. If they're like videos, it's like modeled after Jordan. It's like, who cares? He did it.
Yeah,
he's able to do it well.
Like, nobody who created or thought of something is going to be upset with you. And that's sadly, that's capitalism. Is like, man, the biggest and best businesses, they thought of barely any of their greatness. They just found somebody and did it better.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, like a lot of the earlier what is it? The Netscape search engine, DuckDuckGo. Well, I mean, DuckDuckGo is still used.
Jeeves.
Ask Jeeves. All these earlier ones. It's like, look, Google wasn't the first one. It's just they came in.
Shoot, even Bing, man. People like Bing's still around. Like, is it? Yeah, I don't know.
It's actually, so I'm gonna tell you something funny. Sometimes, like, let's say you can't afford Google ads, Bing ads is cheaper. So you can still, because remember, unless you have so much money, if you need 10 customers, go get them on Bing, right?
Go get them. That's actually a great tip.
Yeah. So especially some of the more competitive categories, go put a little money on Bing, right? It's just one of those things. Especially if it's like local advertising. Let's say there's only 10,000 customers in your area. Google, maybe if you have a certain ad budget, you'll exhaust it. But then it's like, hey, let me get the people who are using Bing. And then sometimes the people who are using Bing aren't as smart. So, they're like, there's a lot of psychology. There's a lot of behaviors.
Brother, I am just entering this marketing game because so I became an entrepreneur at the beginning of this year, which let me tell you was a great time to become a public speaker. Yeah. But I'm looking at this thing now and I'm like, man, I got a message. I'm feeling like I'm getting better at what I'm doing and crafting my art. And I'm realizing that is if and this is being generous, that is half the game. Like being good at what you do is half of the game. Right? And we connected here on LinkedIn a year or so ago. Like, I have loved to see you, and you've put in the work. Like, you see what the process is, you know how to approach it. And I look at this thing and it's like, I want to go bring this to people. And it's like, well, you got to set up funnels. You got to do a landing page. You got to get this. You got to get that. You got to get on Bing. You got to go boom. And it's like, whoa, there's so much more to this joint that like nobody.
But I'll tell you the one thing is that you don't have to be everywhere, especially in the beginning. Like, one of the mistakes I made as an entrepreneur is that, there's a shiny toy syndrome, right? I got to do this. I got to do this. I can do this. So I found that it's better to do a few things well and then slowly expand. Like, as you have more resources and more time, or you can pay people, then slowly go out. Like, I was on Instagram, right? On like Facebook, but I found that LinkedIn was the highest return. So it's like, with my limited time, it doesn't make sense for me to do Instagram, Facebook. It's like, let me go all in on LinkedIn. Now I'm slowly getting back on Instagram because now I have like an assistant. Now it's like, okay, I could take this. So it's like, I would say, especially in the beginning, it's like, maximize one funnel and then have it go to the other ones, or maybe 2 or 3, but you just can't be on 10, right? We're not Gary V, where we could go Snapchat, this and that, and we have a team of people following, and we have video guys following our video guys, right? We don't have that. So
I think that all the time. I'm like, man, if I could just have a dude follow me around video, I'd have content for days. Like, just day in the life.
One thing that I that's worked for me. Do you know the purpose of? Do you know the concept of repurposing content?
Oh yeah,
I think repurposing is pretty good. It's like one thing that's definitely helped me, because it's like you focus all your energy on one type, and then you have the LinkedIn version, the Instagram version, the whatever, the Facebook version, the ad version, the
Mm-hmm.
the Twitter version. I remember there was one guy who sent me a message on LinkedIn. It was a very interesting software, but basically if you had an article, I think it was like $100 a month. It was something affordable. You put it through that, it would spit out 40 tweets.
Wow.
So that's how these guys, they spit out the tweets. They spit out the tweets. They're not writing 40 tweets. They're like, boom. And then what happens is you schedule 40 tweets throughout the day. Or if you have 4 articles or 4 to 5 articles, you have like 200 tweets and they rotate them. So it's like 5 tweets from this article. So you have 40 tweets, but 5 come from here, 5 come from here, 5 come from here. And so like people get creative.
I need to get that. You need to send me that software. But like so I remember like when I first started getting into this and I like 2019, I was like, I'm going to do a LinkedIn post a day, Gary V, format. He said something like, if you have an hour video, like if you have an hour course, you have 1,000 pieces of content.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I got 24-hour-long workshops.
Yeah.
I need to repurpose this stuff, man. Like and I still haven't even done a good job of it because of the shiny toy syndrome. Because I wake up and I'm like, I want to say this. It has nothing to do with like the thing I just did yesterday, but I like,
The shiny toy gets
shiny toy, man.
Because there's always something shiny, but it's like sometimes you just gotta stick, and then when you have more, and we'll talk more after. There are like definitely some strategies that I've sort of implemented that you could probably use.
Yeah, but that's what I've loved to watch you is say, like you've put out who you are and built your personal brand, but your audience. Here is who I'm aiming at. Here is my niche. Like, and that's what's hard for me is I'm quickly realizing everybody likes me and likes what I'm doing, but nobody loves what I'm doing because they don't know, they're not in this yet. I'm like,
no, I will tell you that I lucked out. I have something that's a niche.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's a big niche.
It's a big one.
2/3 of people in the U.S. don't have college degrees, right?
For sure.
And well, not 2/3. 2/3 of jobs don't require college degrees. About 40% of people don't have, 60% of people don't have college degrees.
Yeah.
And it goes into culture, and the schools are just charging crazy amounts. So they sort of market for me every time. Like I was speaking to someone today. She was like, look, she's an international student. She was like, she got into Harvard and she was like, I'd love to go, but I don't want to pay 50 to 70K a year for online. I'm not even getting the experience. And then she's like, and they increase tuition 10%. So it's like, I'm not even getting the full experience that you know what I mean? So at that point, I'm like, look, I was like, take a deferral every year, right?
Yeah.
But I feel that's a ripoff. I was like,
that's a total. So how are you gonna honestly stand behind that and increase nonetheless? Like that's the truth. And when I realized that was. So I came out and I was like, man, I'm going to build this financial literacy program and it should be in every college in America. And I had probably 20 people come back at me and be like, Jed, do you know how many millions of people don't go to college that need this course?
Yeah.
Didn't even think about that. And that's the truth. Like now I'm looking at like, think of all those unions and all those groups of workers that are just like, no, this is exactly what I need. So no, it is interesting to see. It is also interesting to know with the technology with this shift, we kind of saw this bubble coming of like, dude, college cannot continue to skyrocket. Like you should not have a child. And the second thought after you're like, they're out is got to start playing for college. Like,
that's crazy.
That's crazy, but that's real. I was in wealth management. That was the second thing we said after congratulations. Like, we got to set up a college fund.
Yeah. It's crazy. I tell people colleges are a business. So it's a business decision to go to college. And I'm not saying don't go to college or go to college. You have to figure out what's right for you. Right. Yes. Depending on your family situation, depending on what you're going to major in, if you're a bad student who doesn't care, don't go to college. Right. Or don't go to college at 18. Some people need to go at 25. Some people need to go at 28 because now they're more mature or they know what they want to do. And there's so many factors. And then I tell people it's like they're a business. So if you told any business, I'm going to save up 18 years for your product, what do you think they're going to do? You get a discount? No, they're going to be like, you know what? I think you should. We're going to charge you a little more. Save up 20 years, right? Yeah. So it's just like one of those things that if people came together, I guarantee you, if like people came together and they said, we're not sending our kids to college next year, tuition would drop overnight. It's just how it is. They'd have to. So
I want to tell you, it's about to.
Yeah,
now it's 100% about to. And with just YouTube and virtual courses and classes, man, like I talked to some cats, you know, and you're just like, dude, if somebody wants to get into marketing, you go take a course online. Don't go to college.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to become more of a sniper deal than a shotgun deal.
Yeah.
Like, you want to be a doctor, you need to go to school. And for all of our sake, go to school. But like outside of a few of those, like, yes. And I love what you said is like, I would hope some people start going in their 20s.
Yeah. Like, no, because you see, you've been there. Some kids, like I remember some classes, kids are on their iPad the whole time. It's like, why are you here?
Yeah.
It not only does it distract the people who care about it, it distracts. Because if you're in a room and there's like 4 kids on an iPad, it's distracting. You know, the fact, I think they showed a study that even one person having their laptop up, it just changes how you sort of take in notes and all that. So it's like you get those. It's like, why are you here? Like, you're just here because your parents said you have to go to school, and it just takes. Whereas, like, if you decrease the sizes, or if you only had people who were there, then it's like you get so much value, because a lot of the value is, hey, like I had good friends in college, like they were on top of their stuff, and it's like they had me thinking forward. Whereas the other person who's not thinking forward, it's like, right, they sort of bring you down in a certain aspect.
Yeah, and I mean, the idea of college was the think and grow rich mastermind. You know what I mean? It's like, you go there to be surrounded and have this other thing kind of and when you have the distractions and the people on their iPads, the people who don't go to class, like, man, I hated the guys on the football team who were like, man, I haven't been to class in 3 weeks. I'm like, dude, that's not an accomplishment. Like, that's not a good thing.
So let's kind of talk more about the money. So you majored in accounting. So you did you think you were going to make the NFL when you got into college? Was that a goal, or so? No. So would you? So you go to college. What were you thinking?
So I went to college originally. My dad's a lawyer, so I was going to try to go through that noise, figure that out real quick. And I'm more of a numbers guy.
Yeah.
But accounting is great. Accounting is a foundational understanding of business. But I didn't take one class that was like, the Johnson family makes $75,000. Like, what do they take home and spend it on? So my reality check came my rookie year in the NFL. And I'm not ashamed to say, like, I did what most guys do. I spent my first paycheck, came in, went out the door the same day. Now, my cute story is I bought an engagement ring, and my wife and I are still married. So,
Yeah, okay, cool.
But that's a terrible way to handle money. And I will say that to her face is like, and so, like, I woke up and realized, man, I know nothing about money. My dad was a lawyer. My dad is poor dad, you know, and he made money and he's fine, but he never learned about money. He never, and still to this day, he sure definitely doesn't want his youngest son telling him about money. So like, that is what shocked me was the Broke documentary. ESPN Broke documentary came out. Around 72% of professional athletes. And like that dream where you line up professional athletes, line up 100 of them in a row, and 70 of them have nothing to do with the dream they were the ones who had the opportunity to achieve. So I realized very quickly, like, my relationship with money had to shift. And I went from, and I always ask people how long they see money, and I ask them, what type of or are you? Are you a spendor? You see money on a day-to-day? Are you a savor? You see it on a month-to-month, maybe a year time frame? Or are you an investor who sees money on a decade-long time frame? And, you know, you have to train yourself to become that investor and actually have money go to work for you, and then money becomes your employee.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so important, because money is really simple in the sense that if you break it down, it's just spend less than you earn, right? That's really it. But a lot of people I tell people, simple is not always easy. It's just simple, right? And complex is not always hard, right? I'm pretty sure there are a lot of complex plays in the NFL, but some of them come easy, right? Just because you know it in and out, you've practiced it. But you have these guys who are the top of their field, but they can't save, right? And a lot of it comes down to the relationship with money. So can you just expand more on that? Like, I see a lot of people that it's the emotional aspect that they can't really manage? And what advice do you have regarding that?
So money is absolutely one of the most intimate emotional things we do. And one of the first things you have to identify, a question I love to ask people is fill in this blank. Money is.
Yeah.
And you just go, because immediately as I say that, some thoughts pop into your head. And you can be kind of categorized. Are you a money worshiper? Do you think money is the thing that is going to solve all of your problems and do all these great things? Are you somebody who associates money to your self-worth? This is where I get my confidence and kind of establish. Do you avoid money at all costs? Do you think money's evil and bad? Are you money vigilant, meaning you're frugal, but it's anxiety driven and it's kind of stressed out? And so you start to categorize yourself in, this is not my fault. This is just what my relationship is with money. And that's oftentimes where your journey has to begin. So the book, Your Money Vehicle, is very in-depth into the play of, this is a journey. You're getting into a vehicle and you're going and moving with it. And I don't know if enough people really associate money and mindset, but your mindset is something crazy. And, I'm not a mindset expert, but something like 80% of your success will be determined based on your mindset. And I really love the identification and the intention around developing a positive money mindset, even when dealing with things like taxes. Everybody's like, oh, taxes are terrible and bad. I don't want to pay. It's like, man, taxes are a society. 35 million people are unemployed. Do you know who's paying them?
Yeah, the taxes.
Your taxes. Like, taxes can be a great, great thing. It's just, what is your association with it and what is your mindset around it?
So you know how I would answer it. What is money? I say it's a tool.
Love it.
That's sort of how I do. You get that answer?
Not enough. No, like that's somebody, I see it as the same. I see it as something that I control, I use. But no, man, money to most people is uses them. It controls their everyday, and they don't know how to see it as a tool. So no, I love that answer.
No, because I see a lot where it's like you have the people who can't control, right? They don't have the concept, and then you have the other people who are extreme savers to the point where it's detrimental. That I remember one time I read online that they were like, the only time they ever went out to eat is like on birthdays. And then the thing I'm going is like, do you never eat out with your friends? Do you never go out?
No,
it's just kind of weird.
Yeah, there was a movement, and I think it's actually died down a little bit. It's called the FIRE Club. Have you heard about these guys?
No,
gals?
Not. No.
FIRE, FIRE, financially independent, retire early.
Oh, okay. I know that. That's been around for a while. Yeah, financial freedom category.
Exactly. And so these are people who are like, man, I want to be done out the game by 37.
Yeah.
So I'm going to live on $642 a month. And it's just like,
I think there's a right balance.
There's a balance. And that's why I think we got to get rid of the word retirement, because it, just like budgeting, it's semantics, but it is a limiting mindset. It's a scarcity mindset. Retirement is like, I'm going to grind until one day and then I finally get to enjoy my life. And it's like, no, freedom is, you are passionate, you have a profession, you're on a mission, you have a vocation, you have these things in your life today. That is what we're starting to realize. That is what generations our age and younger are starting to identify, like, hey, man, this money thing, this is a tool that I can use. This is not the noun. This is not the destination. This is the vehicle or the verb that is going to take me somewhere. And so right after the money is question, you ask people, well, all right, the magic genie popped out of the bottle. How much money do you want? $1 million. And you're like, all right, $1 million ain't what it used to be, like up it a little bit. But what does that number reflect to you? Like, what $1 million, $10 million shows up in your account tomorrow? What do you do with tomorrow? And then you can begin to have a plan, because $10 million is not a goal. When you get $10 million and you say, I want to go fishing, or I want to go create an app, or I want to go teach wrestling, like, that is goals we can accomplish. $10 million is just the thing that is going to provide those.
Yeah. And a lot of time it's underwhelming, right? You get it. It's like, now what? Now what do you do? Right? Life still goes on, right? It's not like, hey, it's not like a bunch of people line up after you, like, yay. It's just like, okay, what do you do next?
You wake up tomorrow and tomorrow is always going to come. I've sat next to lockers of dudes who get 60, 70, $80 million contracts.
Yeah.
And man, they want to come to my little house or apartment for dinner.
Yeah.
Like that, because it doesn't solve. It doesn't. Yeah. It solves a lot of problems, but it is never.
It can't solve all. It
can't
solve all.
And there's a great, and this is a silly story, but if you ever saw the movie Cool Runnings about the Jamaican bobsled team,
I've heard about that.
Netflix, it is worth.
I've heard.
It's worth every minute of your time. It's an excellent movie. But at the end of it, John Candy, who's one of the main characters, says about a gold medal. He says, listen, if you're not enough without one, you'll never be enough with one. Yeah. And like that line in a goofy comedy movie has always stuck with me because it's the same thing with money. Like if you're hoping money is going to totally change and solve all your problems, money doesn't solve problems. It just changes them.
Yeah, no, and I'm pretty sure you know the stat. Like after $70,000, right? The happiness from money just really diminishes.
Gone,
right?
It's gone.
And then you see a lot of people. It's like if you there are people who are very greedy that no matter what, like guys worth like 50, and they still need more. So it's like you'll never solve that itch. If
absolutely,
you have that why not 20 million? Why not 30 million? And I've seen it all the time that it's like.
The worst thing that ever was created was that like Forbes, 500 list.
Yeah.
Why? Because number 297 is only worried about becoming 296. Like that is his or her like whole mission. And it's like, no, bro, or lady, like, come on. Yeah. It's just we're focused on such weird things these days.
No, and it's tough because I see a lot of things. You'd be surprised. I was talking to someone today, and he was like, the guy, post, and you would think he's pretty wealthy. And it's like when you kind of go, you just never know what goes on behind the scenes. And you just never know. It's just like the guy living in his parents' basement could be whatever. I actually had someone on my podcast, and so he actually met Wendy, like the Wendy's girl, like who the actual person, Wendy. Right.
Weird.
He used to manage like the franchise, like at 18, right? So he just did franchises. And he managed them. And he said when he first went to his bank, right, he like left. He was going to take a few years off, like whatever, travel, explore the world. He said he went and he's like, I want to take out all the money in my account. And then she was like, okay. And he had $1 million. And it's just like he didn't think about it. It was just like him just working and this and that. And then he also went broke at one point because another franchise didn't go well, but he bounced back. But it's like it's just one of those things that it's like, if you tie your self-worth to that, it can really damage you, right?
Oh,
because it's like. And I think at one point he was saying that he had no ego. So he was working at a car wash, and then they came by and they're like, Steven, what's up? He's like, do you own this car wash? He's like, no, I actually work here. So it's interesting. What are some, so when did you realize you wanted to sort of become the CFP? When did you get your CFP? And for those of you who don't know, that's a certified financial planner.
Yeah. So I actually studied for it through every off season. Okay. So I had, and I call it a beautiful miracle in disguise. I got cut 12 times. Okay. When I talk to young rookies, that's usually my first question is like, hey guys, how many times do you think I got cut? And guys like 5, 6, 7. I'm like 12. Joke. So just listen to me for 1 second. I know your phone's going to distract you in about 2 minutes, but so what that did is it awoke me to this reality of like, football's going to end. You got to prepare. What was weird was after I got cut so many times, I actually then ended up having a little career for an undrafted guy and bouncing. Yeah. But each offseason, I would attack one of the tests. And what's super humbling is as I got more educated, a little more confident, conversations started to change where I would be able to add little tidbits into things. And then the kind of word got out and people started to come and ask me questions. And so I sat and talked to guys in the locker room because most of the professional athletes, most of the NFL are young men who are experiencing this type of money for the first time ever. Yeah. And they have a lot of questions. They just don't trust anyone, rightfully so, because they are targets and there's a lot of sharks out there. But where my light bulb went off in, I think this could become a passion and a career was when my brothers, one was getting a law degree from Harvard, the other was getting a master's in engineering from Berkeley, upper echelon, highest possible academics, were asking the big dumb jock brother about money. I was like, okay, so this isn't like an us problem. This is an everybody problem. So when I was done with all the education of the CFP, I retired / the game was done with me. I think I got to walk away, but then I sat for the CFP and I went straight into my next career and world of wealth management because I'm just somebody who needs to keep going.
No, I mean, that's good. It's just like a lot of people think that even some of the smartest people, some of them are terrible with money, right?
Terrible.
I'm in a lot of networking groups, and one guy, he gets loans for people. He was saying that he was working with a doctor.
Doctors.
This guy, hold up, let me see. He was making like $300K a month. It was like a ridiculous amount. He was like a top surgeon, this and that. Yeah. He was making a lot. And he said he even owed his kids money. Like, it was like that, but like the guys, because it's like you get a golf club, country club membership, you get the cars, you get this, you get that, and it's like it adds up, right? No matter what you do, you can always spend more,
and it doesn't go away. And you can always spend more if you think like whatever you're thinking. Once you get it, you're gonna want the next thing. Period. And the NFL teaches you that for sure. But when you look at it, you say to yourself like, how is this possible? Like, how is this going to? Do they ever think about the plan or the end and you realize again, this Rich Dad Poor Dad mindset, which is a tremendous book and it changed my life as it has millions. I get to criticize it now because it doesn't give you actions where your money vehicle does. So is it better?
It's a good starting point.
It is a good starting point. Yeah. Is my book better than Robert Kiyosaki's? I mean,
I think it is.
I
like
think it
more
is
than
too.
him. I like you more than him.
But you ask yourself, and they never consider their income not being there and their income not going up. Do you know who has been, and a lot of people have been impacted, but one of the surprising groups is surgeons, people who were top tier, making $200,000 a month. And all of a sudden that goes away. And they, for the first time in their lives, have been like, oh, whoa, like maybe $22,000 for whatever this junk over here is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I hear you, man. Again, I've sat down with more doctors than I can count and who make over $500,000 and have zero in their savings account. So
that's scary.
It's not making money. People know how to make money. Very few know how to create money, and even less know how to manage and protect money.
Yeah, no, because they say about investing, but the power of investing comes from your savings, right? You need to have stuff to invest. You need to have a base. And another thing I kind of want to ask about you, I know a lot of times the NFL, right? It's the actual financial advisors or their family members, right? Who end up, because everybody comes knocking on the wood. Your uncle that you didn't talk to. Hey, I used to take you to this, or the brothers of, can you expand more on that?
Absolutely. So it's this I made it, we met it mentality. And one thing athletes don't get enough credit for is their hearts. You know, a lot of guys, the headline are these negative stories, but a lot of them are, man, I'm supporting 13 people now. I'm bringing in family from bad places. And the conversation around like, hey, should your family work with you? You take an intimate and emotional topic like money or business and you tie it with an intimate emotional thing like family. That's a double dip. And you ask guys like, hey, are you comfortable with business now coming to Thanksgiving dinner? Because if Uncle Joe is part of the business, it's there now. Like there's no church and state anymore. And ultimately you ask about experience and if it will impact like the rest of your team. But you look at the advisors, they are what I consider the sharks. And what I talk to a few lawyers now who specifically target these people. You ask them and say, why would you do it? And their response is usually, the guy just signed a $50 million deal. Like, I didn't think that they would miss, a couple 100,000 here or $1 million or two there. And, young athletes, that's why I said the trust thing. Trust is everything. There's a great book called The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey. And it is this idea that every relationship you are in is a trust tax or a trust dividend. Your trust is giving or taking from your relationship. And athletes now have such a wall, but they let one person in and they can be totally vulnerable and taken advantage of. So why it happens is you're young, you're naive, you're uneducated, and you do have a big pot of money, and just no other way to, who do you trust in that situation? If you have been a top tier blue chip talent since you were 13, you've been surrounded by nothing but people who want a taste of that. And so often they have nowhere to turn.
No, and I'm going to bring up a specific instance. So Tim Duncan found out his accountant was stealing money because I think through the divorce, there was like an audit, and then it's like, wait, what is it? And I tell people, if I'm at that level, I'm going to hire an accountant. Yes. I'm going to hire another accountant who doesn't know and who's going to audit that accountant, right? Because it's just like,
and that's a market. There are people doing that now. I know a guy who specifically does it, professional athletes, and says, I'll come in and audit the people who are representing you, accountant, agent. So I would say you got to get your A team, agent, accountant, attorney, all these different kinds of people who are going to be around you. But you're right. You definitely need somebody overseeing and looking at it. And what's really sad is, and I think it was Kevin Garnett, I'm going to mess this story up, but the Tim Duncan thing, yes, he found out going through a divorce, which just totally compounds the misery of that. Yeah. But somebody who else was represented by his money manager was sitting in the courtroom supporting the money manager. I want to say it was Kevin Garnett, but I'm not positive. And that's when he realized he was getting taken for $20-some million too. Wow. So like, man, like this is crazy.
No, it's just kind of sad how, unfortunately a lot of disagreements come over money, and it's because it's like you don't, and you can't, obviously there's some aspects where it's like, I think, Iverson in the Reebok contract, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's lucky that it ended up paying like
so good,
because he had like his
he was broke. He was out.
He's just terrible with his money. And
but so what did planning do? What does what
his agent did a good deal.
He needs to pay that man his spades.
Yeah. So it's like you just don't know, and I've seen even people. It's just there's so many laws, they differ by states, and the thing is, you guys get paid. I believe you guys get taxed in each different state, right? So you got
every state in most cities.
Yeah, so you got the different things, and there's no possible way because to even keep up with that. And then it's like how you structure it, and then the agents how they structure it, and then they could hide so many fees. I mean, look, most people, even their bills, right? Even your phone bill is like, you get this tax. So even that's hard to read. So can you only imagine how, all these other aspects, and it's like, what do you write off? How do you do it?
And like, that's what people don't, you really don't appreciate. Like this guy making league minimum next year is going to be $600,000. That's a ton of money, or $6 million. But federal, state, city, you're at 50%, if not more. So that's 50%. Your agent took 3%. You got to pay, and so you really quickly look at it and you're like, yes, it's still a ton of money. 40% of $1 million is still a lot, but not when it's supposed to provide for 40 years.
Yeah.
And that is what people fail, athletes and the fans, to realize is 1 year in the NFL is equivalent to 10 years. And try to tell a 22-year-old to, think like that. It's a challenging topic.
It's tough. And the thing is, look, you get the $600K. You do that. You buy one Ferrari.
Boom.
You're done. You're out.
Boom.
Right?
One.
And then it's like
you didn't even get a house.
Yeah, and I know a lot of athletes, they customize the cars. Now you can't sell it the same.
Yeah, right.
You get your own engraving, right? All these things.
And it's hard, and it's an issue that has continued. And it's not just athletes. I live up near Amazon. Same problem, young people, 25 now making $200,000 in stock bonus, in RSUs and things like that. And it's like, what do they do? Same stuff. Same stuff. You're gonna
do it. So it has to start early, because it's like what I've seen is like you gotta have that mentality. It's always like, look, I could get out, have fun. It's like you could do both, right? There's a reasonable way, right? Just kind of.
Well, that's
I think one of
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say there is a reasonable way, and that's where the planning comes, and that's where the it's just like any good habit. You got to prepare for that situation. If you think you're going to be able to handle $1 million without thinking through how you're going to handle $1 million, you're just wrong.
Yeah.
So if somebody starts to look at their paycheck before it comes in and says,
yeah.
I know I want to put a little bit there and I
Yeah.
want to do this and I want to do that.
That's good.
Then I get to end with that little bit and go and enjoy it.
You know, so one of my friends, he used to play poker. He said he ended up playing with Vince Carter. He said Vince Carter was like the cheapest. And it's good, right? That it's like, look, he has this money, he has his career, but because, you know, another aspect that gets a lot of people, especially athletes, is like you have that competitive edge, that gambling, right? That no matter how much you earn, you can always bet all of that.
Double down.
Yeah.
The worst, like the worst mindset or the worst theory I've ever heard explained, and it was explained multiple times to multiple different young guys, is if you're in a casino and you're losing, all you have to do is put out as much as you're down, and you can win it right back.
Oh man!
Like, don't ever say that to anybody ever again. Just I don't think no.
Yeah. No, it's great because I think one time my friend went, and you know, casinos are designed to like take all. They give you the alcohol, they give you this, look, everything. They have it engineered that they're gonna make their money back. You know, it doesn't have windows for the specific purpose that they don't want you to know what time of day it is, right? They want you to be in a different world. I don't know if they pump oxygen. They do a lot of things, man. The lights and so one time, one of my business partners, he went to the casino and he said he walked out and the guy was like, "Yo, how do I tell my wife that I lost the house?" It's like, you know, it's like he probably went on that logic. I'm down this much, and it's
man. Rounders. I don't know if you've ever seen Rounders. Another great movie, but just gambling. I would not recommend gambling for any athlete. You're in a risky enough position, but it is that competitive edge. You know, you seek out whatever that thing is. I tell people all the time, like the hardest part about not playing a game anymore is nobody claps for you. You know, like I was applauded like my teenage years. And now that I haven't got nobody claps for me at home. Like, come on. I think we need to figure out in the corporate world where clapping can be inputted.
Yeah. No, I think that's people like sort of being rewarded. So, I mean, like, what kind of athletes do you see like when you now or when you were there, like, hey, this person, they're gonna be okay. They manage their money. Like, do you see like some similarities? Is it like, how do you know? Or is you just don't know? Like, what signs do you see that, hey, this person or this person is like, man, I'm worried. Like this person, like
habits. So everything behavioral based. I would say the number one skill of success in any facet of life, and this is not a groundbreaking idea, is can you value what you want most over what you want right now? You take money, you take fitness, you take your career. Can you continue to prioritize what you want most over what you right now? And then can you build out systems and processes and routines to get there? So I love the idea of playing checkers or playing chess. Checkers and chess are the same board, but the pieces are totally different. The strategies are totally different. Checkers, you just try to move across the board, which most people play checkers with their money. Once you realize, and like once you get to the professional level in football, you start realizing like, we're not just looking at what we do. College, you start looking at like how you do it better. In the NFL, you start looking at why you run plays. Like you run an entire formation and play just to set up a play 3 series later in that same formation. Like that chess game, that mental manipulation, that is how you could see people being successful. And it's a running back, it's an offensive lineman, it's a safety, a kicker, whoever it is. If you can identify somebody who is habit oriented and able to value and prioritize most over now, typically those people are going to be able to find success.
Interesting. So that reminds me of this one thing. There's like a little study. If you type in like 4-year-old cookie study or something. So what they did is they gave, I don't know, do you know of that?
Yeah,
it's just so like they gave, you know, a set of 4-year-olds, hey, you could either get 1 cookie now and I think 2 cookies 15 minutes from now. And it showed that the even at 4 years old, right? The kids who waited, they had like higher SAT scores, higher average incomes. And it's like at 4 years old, what happens is their parents have to really set the habits, right? 4-year-olds do what 4-year-old, right? They have to have like get it. Their parents have to have deep conversations, and right, they have to plan like, okay, I can think, right? Because it's like you see those kids, I think like who are like thinking like, hey, I could do this, or if I go and I buy the big pack of chocolate, I can go split it out, right? Those kids just end up being good, right? They just always end up hustlers.
Yeah, I love that study. It's actually, there's a book called Emotional Intelligence where I think that's where the original study was in.
What, the one Emotional Intelligence 2.0, is that the one?
So the 1.01.
Oh, okay, but the same author, right? The
same author,
Travis Bradbury.
Yeah,
I actually recommended the book to someone yesterday, so it's
great.
Yeah, I've heard it's amazing.
I got to be honest, I would have eaten the cookie in a heartbeat. Like I'm a little fat kid at heart. Yeah. But it just shoot, I lost my train of thought. I don't remember where I was going.
It happens.
It does. But that practice, I think that's a great example of that skill.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest skills is the ability to delay gratification, regardless of what you want to do, because in all of life, there's always like now and later, right? It's always like, hey, do I want to not go to the gym, or do I want to do this? It's always, comfort is always easy right now. And
why so you're talking about cookies and now and laters. Yeah. You're teasing me. Do you have now and laters?
No. Oh, I know the now and laters. Yeah, now it's been years.
It's been a minute, but those are also really good.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know what I find? For me, my habits, like when it comes to food, my habits, it has to be a way, right? If there's a box of cookies in my house, there's like something, I'm going to eat it. But if it's not in reach, just the effort of, I got to go to the store. And it's just crazy how habits are so powerful. And a lot of it's, again, the planning. Like there's another study that showed that if you go to the supermarket or if you go to the store hungry, you're going to buy more. And it's like, just like I know when I'm like thirsty and I go to the supermarket, I buy all the drinks and then I go home and I drink like half a drink and I'm like, I have so many, juices that I don't need.
I did not need another thing of Sunny D. But I love that. And that really, that intentionality. So I'm a big believer. One of the routines is I say, control your APE, and APE is APE, attitude, preparation, and effort. But the idea of preparing your day is no different than going to the grocery store with a grocery list. I wake up, you go through these 3 or 4 things. And this is the most groundbreaking thing I'm going to share with people. And I truly believe every human being in the world should do this. The first thing you do in the morning, have a glass of water.
Oh, that makes a difference.
It makes an amazing. But why doesn't everybody do that? Like you just slept for 5, 10, 12 hours, whatever it was. You need a cup of water. Yeah. And it's that preparation, that just little laundry list of like, all right, I had a cup of water. All right, I sat in some stillness. All right, I said something good to myself. All right, I did. Boom, 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 boom. Now you go to the grocery store, you're not hungry, and you go.
Yeah.
And you.
No, go ahead. Finish your sentence.
No, that was it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a very important thing. A lot of people mistake the morning hunger. It's actually dehydration, right? Because you've slept X number of hours. And a lot of people also confuse, hunger when they actually just need some water. So, I do one thing where it's like, hey, drink. And
try.
It makes it,
I love that. I need to do that more. It's like, that like 3:30, you're kind of hungry. I need to just go start pounding a cup of water.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I do the intermittent fasting because I found that.
Oh, you're on it.
Yeah, I've been on it since it's been like a year and a half. Like I started December of 2018. So look, I mean, you've probably seen a lot. I was always like a kid that wouldn't gain weight, and I could eat. Like I'm talking about, like I ate like 16 hot dogs in like elementary school. Like I was able to eat. Whoa. Just like like I loved the phase. I hated going out to eat because I'd never get full, and I was skinny. Just like one of those kids. But then obviously once you can't keep that up. Once you start working and don't work, eventually the weight starts catching up.
16 hot dogs gonna catch you.
Yeah. So it's like eventually, and it was just like I found that intermittent fasting was the only thing that curbed my appetite, because I found that I'm Muslim, so I used to fast all day, so I could avoid eating. Like I could go like 2 days without eating. Like when I fasted during wrestling season, and I mean that was tough, but
crazy.
I was able to always, like, I never had an issue. So what I found was, for me personally, I can either I can go 0, but it's like once I snack, it's like, oh, all the doors open loose. So for me, that works, right? So everybody has to find again. So for me, I just skip breakfast because it's like if I skip breakfast, I can delay lunch, I can delay that. And if I'm busy and I'm moving, I can avoid eating, right? But it's like once I eat breakfast, it's like, oh yeah, then I gotta have this. It's just interesting. It's just me. So everybody has their thing that, hey, they need, some people need their breakfast, but yeah, the habits make a big difference.
It is, man. It's everything. I love that. And intermittent fasting, good for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, now I cannot eat 16 hot dogs. I remember in middle school, what I went at Taco Bell used to have something called the half-pound cheesy bean, half-pound burrito, right? I ate 7. It was in middle school or high school, so that's like 3. Like I used to be able to. I mean, I couldn't move, right? That was the point where I was like, but I used to. But now it's like, dude,
I had like a challenge, like somebody.
No. It was just like, dude, I just
could do it.
I'd buy like a lot. We'd have it for later, and it's just like me. Like, I mean, yesterday I probably had like 20 something wings. I could eat a lot. Like I still can eat a lot, but not like before. Wow. Like now I actually get full and satisfied. But it was just one of those things, just like. I don't know, like I'm a fast eater. It's also the thing is I'm a fast eater. So that makes it because when you eat fast, you can eat it's a bad thing. So now I eat a little slower, but it was just that was just one thing with me but intermittent fast, now I can't eat as much. So it's like it's good. Like I sometimes miss it because like when I go to weddings and buffets, like I used to love picking out, but it's good. It's just like it's a trade, for long term, it just ends up really catching up to you.
You would have fit right in at lineman dinner, man.
Yeah.
They line it up and just go.
Yeah, I could. So tell me more. Tell me more about lineman dinners.
Oh, dude, that's the fraternity. Truly, offensive linemen are a unique breed because they've always been the biggest kid in the room, and truly, I would say 75% of them are also the most insecure.
Yeah.
And so they get in a group and they finally find like their own breed.
Yeah.
And so it's been cool. I became a fullback in the NFL, so I was kind of the little stepbrother of the line group. So I got to hang out with those guys. But that is, you get those big fellas, man. They just pack it away.
And they're like 330, 3. What? How much do they?
Oh yeah, wow. 3 to 3. I mean, I saw some guys tip 4, which was, and still could move. And like when you
got to be able to move
400 pounds, man. And like, because in the NFL, you get a weight, like a designated weight that you have to maintain. And so the awful, wrestling days probably bring you back. Like they would go in sweatsuits and sit in the sauna, lose like 18 pounds, weigh in, then just go start eating and drinking again. And you're like, that's not healthy, man. I don't care. No. So no, that you always wonder when the best times of sports are. It's the down times, and that's why training camp is the absolute worst, but the best because you're in misery together.
No, I mean it's just one of those things. I mean, have you seen some of the habits slowly change, right? Because there's one aspect, right? Social media probably made it worse, right? That probably took the NFL to people spending more. But do you feel like just the more knowledge, the more accessibility, has that sort of taken it the other way? Like where has the shift? Where have you personally seen the shift in terms of how players look at money?
So yes, social media made it much worse. But honestly, just walking through the parking lot is hard because you're parking next to a 10-year vet who does have it. And they have that car and they can afford it. But it's interesting. The modern day athlete is evolving, and you can point to the Colin Kaepernick situation.
Yeah.
It started a little before that, but over the last 5 years, you've seen this shift in this last 2 weeks in particular. Professional athletes speaking out on social injustice.
Yeah.
Been kind of unheard of outside of Muhammad Ali,
Yeah.
And
he's
so
right there.
I saw it actually right when we locked in. I was like, I like that. I meant to comment on it. But that's awesome, by the way. And so I've seen this shift. And part of the reason why I'm excited is because I know what the modern day athlete wants to become. They want to become more of a role model to their community, not necessarily the world. They want to find their niche. Their audience is the younger them. And one of the things they're going to have to learn is the subject of money. And what's really cool is even this offseason, I've talked to a couple teams and I've just said, hey, I'm not selling you anything. I might give you a copy of my book, but I'm just here to answer questions because somebody taught me this stuff when I was sitting in your seats. And, you send that out to 20 guys, one team, 2 of them, one team, 1 of them reaches out. But those 3 guys, or those however many, on different teams, they're going to change their world. They're going to change their family's future, and they're going to impact their community. And so I see this new wave of modern day athlete. They are obviously the next frontier of wealth because their dollars are going nowhere but up. Yeah. And I truly hope and see this platform, and they're starting to utilize it from all angles, which is really, really neat.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. And, I'm going to bring up Muhammad Ali because you brought him up. It was just very interesting that, because athletes, right, they're more than just athletes, right? They're people with families. They have other things and, a lot of them grew up in tough situations, right? That, you've seen something, I think specifically, Muhammad Ali, a lot of people don't realize, right? He gets called a draft dodger and all this stuff, right? But what a lot of people don't realize is a person like him would never step foot on the battlefield. First, it's a security risk. You can't have someone that famous because they're going to be a target. They put all the people around them at risk, right? Second of all, you can't have the heavyweight world champion of the world get killed in battle, right? So a person like him, what they do is they either do exhibitions for the troops or they sell war bonds. They promote it. And for him, he was just like, look, I can't promote people to go to something that I won't go in and that I don't believe in. And then, so all he had to do, even his mom, his parents were like, just take the deal, and he was just like, no, like I'll fight for it and I'll believe it. And, that's why he has the legacy, right? That's why he's so revered. And he was broke 3 years and he actually made some money speaking at colleges, some money doing that. And, he fought. And another thing was, Joe Louis? So Joe Louis was actually, he did the stuff, right? When he did the draft, he got paid like whatever. Let's say he got paid $2,000 for an exhibition. He would have to pay for all the black servicemen. He'd have to pay for the tickets because they couldn't watch for free. And then what happened was years later, the IRS was like, oh, all the stuff you donated, we're going to tax you on that.
Oh, man.
So he got screwed. So he kind of saw that and he's like, look, I saw what they did to him. I'm not going to be. So it's just like, a lot of people don't realize just how much. And Ali had so many deals. Like the government was just like, just come out and say it. And there was like a bunch of black athletes. It was like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Muhammad Ali. I forgot the other one, but he was going to go and they were told, they're like, yo, you got to convince Ali to come out in support of the war because he was just the most outspoken. And they went in and you can't they ended up being convinced because, you have the most charismatic guy, in sports history, right? He's like one of the top. So it's just very interesting that it is very cool to see people like sort of speak up and stand up for what they believe in. Because kids, young adults really look up to them, and it's like when you see
something like 75% of people's role models are athletes.
Yeah, it's just you see it and you see what they grow up in, and a lot of people, right? That these guys are heavily disciplined, right? Especially the good ones. You have to be disciplined, right? You can get on young talent for a certain amount of time, but most people are not Bo Jackson, right? Where they have such superior talents that you need to put work, right? And when you look at people like Kobe and Jordan, it's like they were, I think, Jordan just had to do something, right? He was practicing like golf. He could not stay inside, right? And then you had Kobe do you know Kobe's 666 routine?
No.
So he had something called a 666 routine. It would be, I practice 6 hours a day, 6 days a week for 6 months a year. So that was his thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what? He could line up, look you in the eyes, and say, "I hope you beat me. Try."
Yeah. I think obviously him and Jordan used to go at it, and they just had that competitive edge. I think one time someone scored on Jordan. It was like a rookie who scored on Jordan, right? And off a play, and then he talked something, and then his teammate came to Jordan was like, I'm sorry, not the opposing team, right? Came to Jordan. He's like, yo, I'm sorry. Yo, he's a young cat. Like,
he didn't know.
Was it Kevin Garnett? I don't know. It was somebody. I think it was Kevin Garnett. And he was just like, no, he's like, no, we're sorry, we apologize. He said, rest of the game, he said, what? Oh, yeah, and then take it up a game, take it up a totally different level.
No, man, it is, and that's what I love connecting with people like you, passionate people who are on a mission to truly empower and help people, and that's I think athletes, I think just good people. Yeah. This is a uniting factor of our nation that, for the first time, we're all realizing like, hey, we got to look beyond, my world, our world, to the world. And this is going to be a very neat moment we're going to continue to tell our kids about.
No, I mean, it's like a lot of people say, hey, why, like, I don't know. Sometimes you get the, like, why do athletes get paid so much? But it's like, really, it's like, it's so hard to get into something like the NFL, right? It's like you're, what is it, 0.1%? It's like, look, let me tell you, if a lot of doctors, if they could be in the NFL or they could be in the NBA, they would do it in a heartbeat. It's just, literally, it's not something that anybody can do, right? It's that, and it takes a lifelong, right? There are very few people who start at 15, 16 and really do it. It's, you got to, right? Most of the time you have your parents start all the way from when you're, did you end up playing? Did you play basketball? Because you said your two brothers played basketball. Did you play when you were younger basketball, or?
Oh, yeah. All the way through high school. That was okay. Yeah, that was my original dream. Yeah, and then that's what's hard about today is I played football and basketball throughout high school. There's not too many sport athletes anymore. You're too hyper. I mean,
it's tough because especially I think like one is sort of your off-season sport that keeps you in shape, right? Track is typically another one that, like in wrestling, it was like, football, wrestling, and then, sometimes track, right? But it was just, it's tough because even for wrestling, it's like a year round that it's like you got kids going to camps, you got stuff, this, then you have summers, and it's a lifestyle. So cool. I mean, so you want to mention your book? I'm gonna drop the link in the live.
Yeah. So my book is Your Money Vehicle. You can check it out on Amazon. My website's Jedediah Collins. Obviously, connect with me on LinkedIn. But the book is becoming an online course here in July. Yeah. So definitely reach out, sign up for the newsletter, and get updated, because that's going to be a online course that I believe most people will benefit from outside of certified financial planners, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, is there anybody specific who you feel gets the most value, like a certain age or a certain you're in this situation?
I would say 18 to 25. That's kind of the target, if you will, but it's really anybody beginning their financial journey. Somebody who's asking about how taxes work, asking about how insurance works, asking about what the difference between a Roth and a 401k is, asking about, how do I begin investing? The book is framed out as the first 10 questions asked and answered in a financial journey. And then each chapter has its own set of actions to go and take. So you actually build the beginning of your financial plan through the book.
Interesting. Now that you brought it up, what does the NFL give? Do they give a Roth? Do they give a like, what do they give?
The NFL gives great benefits. You vest into them, and go figure you vest in after the 3 years, which is the average career doesn't make it over the 3 year, but they have a tremendous setup. But the reality is, your 401k and your cap plan and your pension, that all kicks in when you're 55, 60. So
you got to wait.
You got to still live for 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
But no, that's the reality. If you go play 3 years, you should change your life, not set up and not have to work, but it should alter your impact in your life. And that's what I want to make sure guys are doing.
Okay, cool. I mean, like I said, definitely would love to have you back. When is the course coming out again?
Mid-July. So we're aiming for the Monday after July 4th.
Someone asked, what are your opinions on getting debt-free?
So this is where I get to call out our good friend Dave Ramsey. So there are different kinds of debt. Consumer debt, never a good thing. Those are credit card debts, retail cards, things like that. I would say 100% the number one mistake people make in their financial life is carrying credit card debt. Remember this, MAD is minimum amount due. MAD makes me mad because it will take you 30 years and triple the cost of whatever you bought paying the minimum amount due. When you start to look at depreciating and appreciating assets, that's where it gets interesting. Cars are depreciating. You drive that off, it's going to lose value. Your home is appreciating. And so when people start talking about good debt versus bad debt, number one, the answer to the question is, can you afford it? But then number two, you start to measure, what is the interest rate? What is the tax advantage? What is going to be returned to me at the end of this? And then you look at other people's money, which is leveraged debt, which is, if that's something you can do consciously and go create more with, that is an idea around good debt. Again, don't stand on one leg and get overstretched. But the idea of debt-free, I think right now, a lot of people are probably wishing maybe they had a little bit mortgage left and a little bit more liquidity as opposed to being debt-free and no liquidity. And so that's a struggle of mine. But if your sleep at home and your plan, your priority, your most is to be debt-free, by all means, pursue that with all your heart. Is there better planning? Is there better financial management that could be had not being debt-free? Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, money is a tool, right? You can have a hammer to put in a nail, or you can use a hammer to, stub your toe, make yourself bleed. It's all about, and every situation is different, right? If you got a family and you got a mortgage and you live somewhere versus if you, like me, I live at home, right? It's going to be a totally different scenario. There are different things that are going to be sort of good for each and every one of us. So I'm going to sort of end the live show. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming. Buy his book. Feel free to reach out to him. He's a great connection on LinkedIn. Thank you, Gabriel, Christopher, Marissa Brown. We have Kelsey Lips, a whole bunch of people. So you'll get a decent amount of connections after this.
Awesome. Well, I thank you and enjoy the night.
Everyone, see ya.